And let's see, so welcome to our Nashua Region Complete Streets Advisory Committee meeting. Today we are focusing on the Transportation Alternatives Program grant funding that DOT is running right now. First, I'd like to go ahead and do some introductions. My name is Emma Rarick. I'm a planner here at NRPC. Should we do on? Well,
yeah. Hi, Matt Wakins, NRPC.
Will Luke Amherst.
Tyrell Borowitz, NRPC.
okay. And then Nick, is that you?
Yes.
Okay. So we have Nick from Wilton, and then Nicole, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hi, Nicole Crawford from the town of Milford.
Okay, and then is that Mark?
Yes, Mark's on the city of Nashua.
Okay, great, welcome. So I did attach the meeting notes from our last meeting in June. I don't think any of you were here for that. But they're there if anybody has any comments. We don't typically approve them or anything. So we can go ahead and jump, okay, let me see if I can get my screen to share. Okay, so you all should be able to see that. Our goal for today is to answer questions and make sure that people have the information they need going into this TAP grant funding round. If you have questions, that's what we're here for. Please stop us, ask questions. And we're going to go over some of the basics of what we expect from this program this year. And let's see if I can change the slide. There we go. Okay, so the most pressing thing right now is the letter of interest is due to DOT Friday, December 6th. And it's not you're not committing to going through the whole thing. You're showing your interest in doing a project, and the DOT wants to gauge how much interest there is. So they want to see how many people are thinking about submitting projects. Once you submit that letter of interest, you will be informed of when their mandatory NHDOT workshop is, where they explicitly describe what they need in the application that is due to NHDOT towards the end of January, on January 24th. And so, say Matt, feel free to jump in anywhere.
Yeah, no, you're doing good.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that all makes sense. That just to emphasize, that's a mandatory DOT workshop
Yes.
in January.
Yes. And so, yep, you have to submit a letter of interest to get the date for the workshop to turn in the application. And then NRPC comes in after that. Once the applications are all submitted to NHDOT, all the RPCs go through a project ranking process. So we will receive the applications, and we have criteria that we look at. We'll form a scoring committee, and very similar to the 10-year plan projects. So we'll form a scoring committee, and the municipalities that have submitted applications will do a presentation to TTAC. So that's our group that meets monthly. And we expect those presentations to take place on Wednesday, April 9th. And those presentations will help inform our scoring committee and how what they recommend to DOT. So we'll submit those rankings to DOT towards the end of April, and then DOT will finalize their list of projects that that they want to fund and include in the 10-year plan at the beginning of May.
And Emma, I would just interject that DOT does their own scoring
Yes.
process, and NRPC's rankings count towards 10% of New Hampshire DOTs.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Yep, we can jump ahead to this slide. Yeah, so the TTAC ranking, yeah, is just 10%. The other 90% is how DOT, how they choose to rank it.
Yeah, and this is New Hampshire DOT's weighted criteria, just so you know, this is not ours.
Yep, and this is what they did in 2021. We expect 2024 to be very similar. Hello. So I'll back up here. So the basic requirements, municipalities apply. You do have to have they do require a local funding match of 20%. And somebody at the municipality needs to be, go through, if they haven't already, make sure that somebody is trained with what does LPA stand for?
That's,
Local public agency.
thank you.
You.
That's all.
Okay, yeah. So you need to make sure that you have somebody trained in that. And then the projects themselves need to be transportation focused. The goal is to provide choices for non-motorized users that are safe, reliable, and convenient. And that fourth bullet point is a quote from the letter of intent form, that all projects must be transportation focused and explain how your project meets a non-motorized user need. And so we had pulled up a successful application from the 2021 round. And this was a project that the city of Nashua had submitted in 2021. It was successfully funded. So just because this year's application is not available online yet. We expect the 2024 to be similar, but DOT is in charge of that. So they could always change things, but we expect it to be similar. So this successful application, met eligible TAP activities. They submitted a map. They have nice, clear, compelling descriptions of the project. And then, they have their cost estimates. And their 20% match.
And the match has to be funds, dollars. It can't be in-kind work or.
Typically, no.
Yeah, and it can't be is it that it can't be federal
You can't
funds?
match with another federal.
Another
funding source.
federal.
Yeah, it has to be funding from a non-federal source. And I think part of why this application was compelling is that we go to the end, they have all these letters of support. So you want to make sure that this is a project that there's a need for, there's a desire for. It's not something that that you're foisting on the community. It's something that people want, and you can show that support. And then also a clear map can really help show out, I believe this was what they were proposing, and it really shows how it fits into the network, how it'll increase access to things like the senior center. They mark out important things in the community. So I think, filling in that gap, having clear support from the community, a readiness to pay that local match, and clear descriptions are part of what made this successful. remember what I have next. Yeah, and so coming back to this these percentages again. So you can see that the potential to improve safety at 22% is really what's going to make your can have the most impact on your project being competitive. Is it making an unsafe situation safer? Is it giving people an alternative route to get somewhere? Like instead of riding on a busy road, or walking, is it a sidewalk on that busy road? Is it something that's making a clear improvement to safety? And then at 17%, next it's financial readiness. Are you able to provide that 20% match? Because they don't want to spend their time on a project that the town can't meet that match for. Because it's a lot of work and effort to make that happen, and that's something that has to be part of it.
Is this, are the grants every 3 years? I see 21,
Yeah,
now
Yeah, the last time
24,
was
so
21.
every 3 years they usually do this.
Well, and is this described as
That
2020?
it's- that's not a perfect, sorry.
Yeah, no, I'd say,
Right.
yeah, 3 or 4 years,
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, no, it depends.
It depends, but approximately 3 years.
Yeah, so we do expect it'll keep coming around every few years. And then, so after financial readiness, you can see project support. Do you have those letters of support from people in your community, from organizations that would be affected, from people who want to make it happen and that will impact them? That project support, I think, can make a big difference for grant applications. And I love how feasibility is only 7%. You would think that
Yeah.
feasibility might be higher up, like, is it actually possible? Can we make this happen? But no, feasibility actually comes after. And you could argue that, like, if if it'll improve safety, if you have the money to support it, and the public, support from other organizations, you could say at that point you probably have a feasible project. And then the stress analysis is that the level of can you,
It's like it's kind of hard to explain because I think DOT's explanation is a little different, but it's just that range of how kind of unbikeable or unwalkable a segment of roadway could be. If it's low stress, then the benefit isn't as great as if you're
Yeah.
improving a high stress,
yeah. Yeah.
segment of roadway.
Yeah, so if you're looking at making, putting a sidewalk on a roadway that has high speeds, high volume of traffic, and maybe a lot of intersections or something, that would be a high stress road. And so offering an alternative to that would score better than
I'd say
something like a low stress.
speed, wide
Yeah,
shoulder.
yeah,
kind of-
yeah, exactly. Places which are not too bad to travel on already.
Yeah, but
If a project is already in the 10-year plan,
Yeah,
do you still have, can you still put in for a TAP grant or not?
yeah, I think so.
and if anything, that would help speed up the funding for it.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think that showing things like that, if a project is already in a plan, that can help justify that can help show support for that if it's already been identified as something that needs to happen.
And it will have had to gone through, a whole process beforehand.
If it's already in the
It's been
10-year plan.
scoped and
Well,
it's been-
It's our current, like we're just finishing up our 10-year project solicitation process. So
Yeah.
those projects that haven't necessarily gotten into the 10-year plan, those are really good candidates for this because it's true. They've had all of their kind of the on-call engineering work done, and they've got a pretty defined scope and cost.
Right.
So that really is super helpful, in certainly in DOT's process.
Right, but if a DOT funded project on the 10-year plan, if it's funded,
Mhm.
the town still have to pay 20%, correct?
Minimum, you typically, if it's federally funded, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this wouldn't help you, so if you already have a project in the 10-year plan, that one's, already on the list to be funded with that. This wouldn't, you wouldn't, it could, if anything, it could make it happen sooner, but you're not gonna get any more. It's not gonna,
Yeah, so I'm thinking like as an example, that Amherst stretch between Souhegan
Oh.
along Boston Post, that is
yeah,
really a danger. That's currently in the 10-year plan.
No,
And it-
which, what are you talking about? Boston Post Road?
Yeah, Boston Post Road from, the Souhegan River all the way up to, Stearns Road. It goes right by the Souhegan High
the
School.
stretch by the high school.
I don't know.
Middle school.
I don't know of a project along there that's in the 10-year plan.
Okay, so maybe it's up this year, or they're putting it, trying to get it in.
Yeah, right, that, there are several sections along.
Yeah, because I think that should be our number one section.
Yeah.
I mean,
To apply.
to apply for.
It sounds
Well-
like it could be eligible.
Yeah, but if it's the project I'm thinking of that you guys applied for this year, I don't think it's a tap project, really. It's not. It's there's one where they're talking about raising the roadway up to get it out of the flooding area. There's a couple bridges. Those aren't tap projects.
Oh, so it's not, you're not talking about a sidewalk along there.
Yeah, well, at least in front of the high school and middle school where
Oh,
kids
right.
are going up and
Yeah,
down and.
Yeah. No, I think projects near schools can be good options.
Are these all funded, or are these all worked, at least in our town, through that bike ped committee?
Not necessarily.
Or maybe, yeah, okay.
We can
Yeah.
talk
Oh,
about that
talk
one
offline.
offline.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, thank you.
And then that brings up, so I should have put in, or mentioned connectivity earlier at 18%. So connecting those kids from the middle school to other places, because you wouldn't want to just put a stretch in front of the road. If they can connect them to somewhere, that's really gonna make it more compelling. And then socioeconomic benefit, I believe that refers to our neighborhoods that are lower income going to benefit. Because they tend to be under-resourced, so providing them with other options, making sure that things are happening in those neighborhoods. It can be worth 10%. And then that TTAC ranking again, what comes out of our process here in our region with TTAC and our scoring committee. And then, so those are sort of the higher level things. Oh, no. Okay, so I can dig this up somewhere else. So what I was pulling up now is in the packets, if you have a hard copy packet, it's the table in the back of that. Let me stop sharing for a second and pull up. This was in the 500s, not.
Yeah, 503. Yeah. And
This one?
what are you looking for?
The scoring criteria. Yeah, this one. And this is the criteria for our internal process for NRPC, correct? So this really breaks things down, how the difference between scoring a little bit higher, or a little bit lower.
Are
So,
you sharing that, Emma?
no, thank you. Let me get this up on the screen for our Zoom people. Okay, that should be visible now. So this is that 10% that NRPC will facilitate scoring, how that is broken down. And, so potential for success, is broken down into project support, financial readiness and feasibility, the safety. Yeah, connectivity, for example, facilities that serve larger volumes of population are considered vital to regional mobility and key connectors between economic centers.
And this is actually also the DOTs, and we,
Oh, okay, so we
Yeah.
kind of adopted. So yeah, so there's different levels, but this can help break down exactly what sorts of things um could be more competitive. You know, does the project have the potential to improve economic opportunities in communities that lack adequate public and active transportation? And so sort of the difference between a shovel-ready project and something in the planning phase, or something where no planning or outreach has been initiated for the project. That can make a difference.
yeah, these are kind of you guys probably already picked up on this, but these are the lookups that kind of get into a little more depth of, you know, the criteria, the overall criteria, then you break it down and there are ways to, you know, to think about your project and how they might fit into the bigger criteria.
Yep, so looking at all this criteria can help determine if, you know, if you're thinking about a particular project or choosing between a couple projects, which project might be more competitive, because the more competitive it's going to be regionally, the more, you know, appealing it should be to DOT. And the more likely you are to get funding. So let me see.
Probably want to, I don't know that they're seeing this.
No, I can, yeah. So, I guess, do we wanna pause and ask for questions or talk more about, yeah, so does anybody, have any questions at this time about what we said or about things that you're thinking of, you know?
I have one if I could.
Sure, go ahead.
So in past years, I think the funding cap was around 1.2 million. Is that kind of what's expected for this round as well?
Good question, Mark. I did reach out to DOT about that exact question, and they were, you know, non-committal. They were gonna wait and see, you know, what. Well, I shouldn't say that. They said, you know, no, they don't have a cap yet because they're waiting to see how many applications they've gotten, and I'm not sure they know exactly the amount of funding they're working with. I think they have really a good idea of what you know, what pot of money they have. But again, they're waiting to see how many applications they get before they set a minimum or a maximum. They probably won't have a minimum only because you know, there's probably not a project that's gonna be below $250,000 type of thing, so there's probably not necessary to have a minimum, but there may be a cap for sure.
Okay, all righty, thank you.
So that cap, so obviously Wilton's project that it submitted for its 10-year plan that we might be submitting for this TAP grant was over the 1.25 million that was on the last one. Have
Yeah.
projects been endorsed if I guess there's a commitment to, you know, even if a project comes over the number, there's a commitment to pay, the town would take care of the rest of the project? Or are they looking for like a complete, you know, closed off package for things, I guess?
Well, that, or you could maybe figure a way to phase it, right, and get it under, you know, that possibly. But yeah, if it's over, I think you'd have to, you know, have some sort of statement in there about what you just said.
And timeline wise, do we know like when's the and I'm sorry if this was included in some of the material, but when's the typical, so let's say a couple of the communities here gets projects in for when to execute or you know, for submission for the grant and they get approved, like when's the expectation that they would be executed? Is this just going to be another 10-year plan item that could be 4 or 5 years from now, or is it like expectation to get it off the ground like next year?
I think typically it's out, 4, 5, 6 years type of thing, a little, the typical, 10-year plan project that's successful usually ends up being out at the, the last 2 years of that next 10-year plan. And then these TAP projects tend to move that up a little bit. So hard to say exactly, but somewhere in there in the, 4 or 5 year range,
Yeah.
3, 4, 5 type of thing.
The other question I had from other members of my community for a completely unrelated project is, could the town submit projects that might already be out there and, like, for example, the 10-year plan to kind of advance them, I guess, under TAP, or is that something that's never been intended
Yeah,
how it's intended to be used?
I have to get back to you on that one. If a 10-year plan project, it's already in there and it's scheduled for 5 years from now or 6 or 7 years from now, can you apply for TAP funding for that? I'm not sure. We'll have to get back to you on that.
Yeah, that'd be useful. I know
Yeah,
there's.
no, that's a good question.
Do we have any, looking at some of the TAMP projects that seem to have gotten funded on previous years, is that some of them actually included that didn't seem, they're at least from their applications anyway, they didn't seem like they were fully like engineered out, for example. Is the expectation that you could still potentially include like engineering costs? You just score less design engineering and stuff like that. You just score less, probably, presumably.
Yeah, I don't think there's a requirement that it's already been reviewed by, say, the NRPC or on-call engineer. I don't think that's required for this. But it sure is helpful that, it's a project that's already been through that. It's certainly helpful for you, right?
Right.
Don't have to go through
I
all
guess
that.
it's the distinction between having completely engineered out plans to kind of like shovel ready, and versus, us having a good idea of what Wilton, for example, wants to do right now as far as cost wise.
Right, yeah, I think it doesn't have to be fully engineered,
Okay.
as I understand it.
So I have a couple more slides where we could talk about past successful projects, if that would.
Yeah, that'd be a good
helpful.
idea.
Okay. Okay, so that first project in Nashua that we talked about was funded in 2021. This is another project that received funding. This was in Merrimack. And what this application was for this was just one segment of sidewalk. They had other segments of sidewalk that they were including in this proposal. But I thought that this section was compelling because you could see how it increases connectivity, it ties into existing sidewalks, it fills in a gap. And then they also showed the Sauhegan Trail, which just opened this year, but that was also funded with a TAP grant in a prior year. So they're showing, what they want to do, what's already existing, and some other things that are in the works. And I think on some other maps that they included, they showed how this could where the schools were located, they're showing the fire station. They're showing other important things in the area and how, and Merrimack has they've been working on the sidewalks and accessibility in this area for many, many years. So they have a history of how they're, this is all very much supported by the community. This is something that they're working towards. This was a bridge connection that was funded in Nashua. It's been built. It was built a couple years ago. I don't remember what year it received funding. But this is a bridge. I don't have a map of it, but it goes across a canal and it connects a lower income neighborhood with Mine Falls Park. So that connectivity again, it's part of the making it easier for people to get around, making those connections. And then this also provides an alternative. This way people can cross into the park and walk along a path to go west. The alternative is to walk along a pretty narrow sidewalk along a pretty busy road. So it provided, it was connecting things and it provided safer alternatives for people to get around. And then this was the top ranking, I thought this was interesting. This was the top ranking project for statewide last year. This was from the city of Claremont, so this is not in our region, but I thought it was interesting to look and see what did the best statewide. And they were proposing this multi-use or pedestrian path here. And then a multi-use path to replace the sidewalk here. They showed it all on one map. They showed, the traffic volume on the streets here. They showed how it tied into existing sidewalks. And I don't think this was part of the proposal, but they showed that this rail trail is designated for improvements. And then it showed how it connected to, they marked the community center, the middle school, the high school. So connecting the kids walking around, making it safer for them. And I don't know the demographics of the neighborhoods, but I really like how they clearly explained here what was going on and how it would fill some gaps and give people other options. And those were the three, I think, so that's a basic outline of timeline, expectations, what we know about what's going on, some past successful projects, and really, if people have questions, if you want to think through anything. Some of that or do more of that.
Has anyone here worked on a TAP grant application before or gone through this process before?
I've helped. Yeah. And just a reminder, your application goes to New Hampshire DOT.
Yes.
Not to us, like the 10-year plan stuff goes to us, but it goes to DOT, so you're gonna get, I think as Emma said, you'll get an application. You get turned on to the application once you get in your letter of intent type of thing.
Yep.
Yeah, but we can certainly help. We're here to offer technical support. So if you need help, we're here.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
I will, I can give a shout out to NRPC. Tyrell, you just collected counts for Lock and Whitney. That is a TAP grant that has become an actual project.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
That's in design right now. So that's one that has come to fruition for the city of Nashua. So thank you for the support on the traffic counts to help that one through.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. No, that's a good point too, is that if you need things like traffic count
Yeah.
for future projects or whatever, that's something that we can help with.
Yeah, traffic counts, bike pedestrian counts.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Identifying where current existing sidewalks are and are not.
Yeah, I think, well, this was years ago, about 20 years. These TAP grants have been around for a while, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we had one in Amherst that rerouted some streets by our town hall. Bill Viet and I put it together. And we went through the briefing process through NRPC and then it went up to the state. It was, you know, only for 300,000, but it was, you know, a project that was done with. It takes a while to get that all through the wickets.
Oh, yeah.
I
Yeah,
remember.
yeah, anything with federal funding.
Yeah, yeah.
can take time.
Yeah, that's whenever you all were downtown.
Oh, wow. Right.
Because that was a long time ago.
Yep.
Yeah,
I have a thought, but I don't.
I keep forgetting that.
Oh, and yeah, the letter of intent, like I said, you're not committing to put in an application at that point, but if you think you want to put in an application, make sure to get that letter of intent in. And it said on the DOT website that if you change your mind about the project or you need to tweak details or whatever, that's fine. But get that letter of intent in, because that'll get you into the system and allow you to work with them to submit an application, whatever it ends up being. So that's really important, is that if you think you're interested, get those letters of intent in.
And presumably it's it's a letter per project essentially. So if somebody else in the community wanted to put forward a project, they would need to submit their own if it wasn't, or the town would have to submit multiple letters, I would imagine.
I believe so.
Yeah, it's municipality, that's, you know,
And so the municipality has to submit it,
Yeah.
yeah. But so, yeah, yep, so, but there could be different department or different.
yeah, and
um,
different projects, but yeah, keep them separate for different projects.
Okay, so, we could, do we wanna do statewide, regional, local updates, or do you wanna do, a bike head count? Review of what we've been doing?
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay. If I, or if you wanna just pull it up on our,
oh, on the dashboard, yeah.
dashboard. I'm gonna show off, just some of the more recent bike and pedestrian counts that I've done on our, NRPC bike and pedestrian count viewer, which is coming up now. If you're not already familiar with this, this is our public facing dashboard. Just shows off all right now you can see all the locations that I've done bike and ped counts. Those are all those, little diamonds there. Click on any of these locations, there'll be a picture, you scroll down and there'll be a record associated with that. Tells you when the count was installed and retrieved, total traffic for that period of time, the daily average. And there's a link to an even more detailed report, a PDF, that gives you a breakdown of direction and the volumes on different days and all kinds of stuff. This is one that I did in Hudson. That was this format for this report is not the same as typically what I put out there, but they were very interested in some specific information. So I gave them kind of a customized one.
Yeah.
If you go back to the dashboard, Emma, there it is. There's some tabs along the bottom. And so this shows how many counts have been done each year and in what towns.
What's that increase?
Yeah, I've been busy. This year. The next tab, most recent counts. So right now you can see that there are 4 counts that are active right now. 2 of them are in Wilton, 2 of them are in Mason. First time I've been to the Mason Rail Trail, but I have been to the sites at Wilton before one time. So, I go back to a lot of the same sites and get, maybe it's the same time as last year. So you can do a yearly comparison, or I'll do it, once in the fall and once in the spring or winter, summer or something, if it's, you know, and a lot of times, communities will get in touch and ask specifically to do a count at a certain spot or at a certain time of year. And then you can see all the other locations I've been to recently. Yeah, do you have a question, Matt?
Yeah,
Sure.
Tyrell, just from my own knowledge, for example, 33 Main Street in Wilton, so do you have?
Yeah.
You have the machine set up kind of facing away from the street across the sidewalk? Is that what's going on there?
Right, so it just measures people walking on the sidewalk.
Okay.
They have to be configured certain ways so that they don't pick up vehicle traffic, which sometimes is really tricky depending on the location. But I can do it most of the time, and there are some locations where it's possible and appropriate to collect bicycle data as well, and that's it's not suitable in every location, but if I can do it and it makes sense, then I'll capture that as well. The next tab after that is site list and records. So these are all of the locations that I've set them up. And Emma, if you could click on, actually, oh yeah, that's fine. Click on Mine Falls Park, Whipple Street entrance. It's, yeah, go up 3 more spots. Yeah, there you go. So that shows, it has a little report card for each time that we've gone and collected there, and you can kind of scroll through. Tells you all that same information as on the pop-up on the map. And each of those has the link to the PDF report. Yep, which is, has a picture, shows you where on the map it is, breaks down, you know, the averages over the different days and the totals for the different days and all that stuff. So you can see, you know, when people are showing up. And then going back to the dashboard, there's the next tab over, and that's site list and trends. So if you go back to, yeah, no, that one's fine. Yeah. So you can click on a site, and if we've been there multiple times, you can see what those daily average values are at different times that we've gone and counted there. So if we went back to that Mine Falls location, yeah, you can see each time we've gone there, the highs and lows, and if you scroll over those dots, it'll tell you when it was. So that was in February, so it makes sense that it was really low. That one was in February, so it allows you to compare over time, you know, what those general seasonal trends can be. Yeah, so in a nutshell, that's what's on this dashboard, and you know, constantly adding new locations on there. You know, I'm open to going and counting where people want me to count. Just trying to gradually get it more full of information and data.
That's really awesome. Come a long way.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
From when I was doing it.
yeah. Well, and if you go to the counts by year tab, Emma, you can see that we've been doing counts since, well, we did one in 2017. But yeah, so for several years, we've been getting some of this information, and it hasn't been until, you know, this last year that we've been able to really show it off in this way. And been making a big push to get counts in all the different communities and not just in Nashua.
Yeah.
So do you think previously in 2023 to like 21, you know, there's a big jump in 24, and is it because of equipment? Is it because of you? Is it because of the towns are requesting it? Could you have done the same thing in 2023 and 22 with more equipment and?
Yeah, so last year I did get 2 additional counters.
Yeah.
So now we have 4 devices that we set up. So that's, you know, that's huge. And I've also tried to be much more organized about it all and plan out, you know, where I'm
Yeah.
going, and have gotten more requests from people in the different towns this year than before. as
Yeah, so
well.
you've doubled the amount of counters then.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's.
That makes a big difference.
That makes a big
Yeah.
difference.
And I set them up for 2 weeks at a time. So,
Yeah.
you know, over the course of a year, that's about 20, and you can't, you know, sometimes there's gotta be breaks or whatever. So, but let's say it's on average 20 locations I can get with one counter. So that's, you know, makes a big difference when you have 4 counters, you can get almost up to 80. Which,
So in 20,
there.
or
Yeah.
like, which towns are missing? There's what, 13, 14 towns and.
yeah, I haven't got any in Lineborough and Pelham and Mount Vernon yet.
Yeah,
And part of that is just not knowing where
Where-
they would like that to be. And if I've got people, you know, knocking on my door saying, hey, can you count here? Can you count here? And it's like, yeah, well, I will prioritize those over going and wandering around in the woods, wondering, you know, where I should
Yeah.
put up my machine.
cool.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yep, and they
Well
can, we can put them on trails too, so it doesn't have to be sidewalk.
Yeah, we put them on sidewalks, on trails through the woods, on pedestrian bridges, what else? That's mostly it. Yeah, rail trails,
Um,
and Amherst has 2 permanent counters installed, which they purchased and installed on their own accord that are along Amherst Street. And I work with them and fetch that data on a quarterly basis and put those quarterly reports in here as well. So you can see not just in a 2-week period, but throughout the whole year,
Throughout the whole.
every 3 months, what are those?
Are they both on
averages.
on Amherst Street?
Yeah.
Where are they at the top of the arrow? Yeah,
We can show you.
I'm just curious.
So one of them is
Are they,
just to the left.
this one?
That's one location.
Yep.
And that's what it looks like. It's just this little rectangular post. And
And then the other one,
the other one is a bit further down,
Further.
not that one, but the next one, yeah.
okay,
And that's able to pick up pedestrians and bicycles separately. And you can see that little kind of pattern in the path there. That's an inductive loop sensor that's able to capture bicycles as they ride over. Yeah, any questions about that?
Pretty awesome.
I've not started planning where to set these up for next year, but I'll be doing that in the winter, thinking about it. If you have any suggestions, let me know.
Yeah, yep, if you're thinking about future projects or just curious. You know, email Tyrell.
Yep.
Get on the list. So I'll take that down. And then we usually do statewide, regional and local updates. I don't think I have any statewide updates to share, other than, I guess the state is still working on their complete streets policy. They came out with another draft maybe a couple months ago. But they also just lost the chair of their Complete Streets Committee, so they're looking for a new chair. She moved out of state.
She moved to Montana, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, yep. Regionally, we're still working through the Safe Streets for All plan draft, which what we expect that, say Ned's been working on that and he's he couldn't make it to the meeting today. But I think they are planning to have a draft out in January, if I recall, so that's not too far away. And then, and that's the plan that will make some of the, or rather, if a project is in a plan, then that becomes eligible for a certain type of funding.
Can we jump back to that real quick?
Sure, yeah,
So the draft's gonna be ready in January. I think the notice of funding opportunity is coming at the latest in March, from what I'm
Okay.
reading.
Yep.
Are we planning to have that solidified in order for the municipalities to go out for this round of funding?
yes, that is the goal. Yep. And then we're working through the 10-year plan process and the prioritized list of, or the draft list of prioritized projects will be presented at TTAC tomorrow.
Correct.
It's tomorrow.
Anything else regional?
Is that tomorrow, is that the NRPC ranking?
That, yes, so
Yeah,
that's,
so you've already have evaluated all the projects that were briefed.
Yeah.
we
so you're
did, and
ranking.
you may recall, Will, that we had a scoring committee.
Yeah,
Went through all of that. And they, well, the individual scorers had their, their opinions and their scores, and we averaged them all together, and we came up with, a list of projects. And we'll explain that all tomorrow. I know that that was included in the TTAC agenda packet that's been out there since last week. So
Yeah.
look at that tomorrow.
Yep. And that's part of how the 10-year process is different from the TAP, is that for the 10-year process, our region has about $7 million that we need to figure out how to spend.
Yes.
Whereas the TAP process, we don't have a specific amount of money. It's more on the statewide level. And we
Right.
don't have as much input into that.
Right, and usually for TAP, New Hampshire DOT kind of guarantees at least one project per region. Right.
Does anyone have any local updates they'd like to share, things that are going on in your community?
Just wanted to let you know that we do plan on bringing definitely scooters and maybe bikes back to Nashua next year.
Okay.
We are doing it a little bit differently this year. We're going to put out an RFP.
Oh,
So we'll see what we hear back.
okay,
Cool.
nice.
How's progress on the Riverwalk?
I have no idea.
I walked by and looked at it. and
Yeah.
like, wow, they're doing stuff over there.
They certainly are. That is a big effort.
Yeah, that's,
is that across by the bridge, you can see some work.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
yes.
What are they doing? Is there a walkway over there?
They're
or-
building a walkway, yeah, on
Nice.
both sides, so you
That
should
could be
be able
nice.
to walk in a loop. And eventually, when they replace the other bridge, you'll sort of have a loop on either side of Main Street.
Oh man, that's gonna be nice.
Okay, I
Yeah.
think that's all I have. All right, well, thank you all for joining us today, and if you want to sit down and talk one-on-one with us here, we're happy to do that. So,
Yeah, don't be shy. We can help.
yep.
Yeah, right. We talk offline a little bit.
Sure.
Yeah, all right, thank you all.
All right, thank you.
Everybody.
Yeah, well done, guys.